Blessed be all my people out there. In this video, we are going to be addressing the question, is it possible for someone to be accidentally or incidentally hexed, psychically attacked, or maybe suffer some kind of cross conditions or blocks as they are going about their life? When we say accidentally or incidentally, we mean without any intention behind it. And we're also going to talk about what actually gets a situation like that going, what is going on with the process of it all, spiritually and energetically, and what actually sends something like that forth into being, and what that looks like, how it shows up. Now, the short answer is yes, absolutely. And it is something that does happen all the time. And to understand how that happens, we need to talk a little bit about what actually creates a situation where a hex or a psychic attack or a crossed condition actually gets going, gets off the ground, whether it's intentional or not. When you are dealing with something like that, you are dealing with a situation where the spiritual and energetic circumstances around a person, whether it's yourself or another person, have become so maligned that they are starting to create life circumstances that are either breaking things down, blocking things up, or throwing things off their actual course, or their best courses, or the healthiest courses. Now, since I mentioned health, I do want to preface this by also saying when I'm talking about these kinds of situations, I'm talking about a situation where I'm assuming that in the realm of physical health and mental health, everything is kind of at the status quo for whatever person is in question. You know, and when I say status quo, I mean this person is either perfectly mentally and physically healthy, or they are at least aware of their physical and mental health circumstances that they can actually discern what from what. When we are talking about any kind of spiritual work, energetic work, or magical work, we have to remember that things can happen without intention at all. Not everything runs on intention, and intention is not everything. Energy can be amplified, magnified, directed, and projected through other means, or through other directions, or other directives. Insistence and intensity being the other two big ones. You know, when we're talking about anything spiritual, intensity, intention, and insistence are kind of like the trinity, the three eyes of what is going to be dominating or controlling or directing any kind of influence or any kind of power or force. And so insistence, of course, that is where it's really more about insisting that something is the way it is, right? You might not be intending it. You might not necessarily even want it to be that way, but there is enough power and energy behind your insistence that you might as well be just making it so. There is intensity, which is where the energetic, spiritual, emotional, and mental processes are so amped up that they are not only amplifying, but also propelling a circumstance into being, but they may actually be forcing it so. And then there is intention, which is a little bit more like the balanced, healthy hybrid of the two. But again, a person doesn't have to be preying on their own or another's downfall to be working towards their own or another's downfall. And typically, unchecked insistence or unchecked intensity is usually a big factor in that there. Now, I'm not saying everybody who's ever had a bad thing happen to them or is going through a bad patch in life is manifesting it for themselves. That is a gross misunderstanding and distortion that has come out of the New Age self-help wellness industrial complex, and it's not really how it works. We exchange energy with our environments, with other people, with spirits all the time. There are lots of different reasons as to why spiritual circumstances might not necessarily be working with a person or their own desires or their own plans or their own agenda, and it has nothing to do with whether or not they are having happy thoughts and smiling in the mirror like a psychopath. Okay, there are plenty of people out there who are egomaniacs, who think nothing but positive thoughts about themselves and what they've got going on, and yet they are ticking bombs and can't do jack shit. So let's not hold on to that distortion. When a person is directing a great deal of intensity or insistence upon themselves or upon a situation or another person, they are amplifying and calling in a lot of excess power, a lot of excess amperage in through themselves, so to speak, and directing it towards the object of their intensity or the object of their insistence. When they do that, they connect with the object of their insistence or their intensity or their intention and start to send that energy towards it. What that energy is comprised of can and often does color or change or transform what is going on with the object of their intensity. So one of the ways people can often hex or psychically attack themselves or each other, whether they mean it or not, is that they actually project what they're going through and what they are experiencing energetically, mentally, and psychically and emotionally onto the object of their focus. And they can do it to their loved ones. They can do it to their neighbors. They can do it to their jobs. They can do it to their plans. They can do it to their home. They can do it to themselves. And what happens when they do that, depending on what they are sending, can create a crossed condition, a block, or an accidental or unintentional hex. So one way this might happen is, say, for instance, Joe really wants his boss to like him, but whenever Joe is around his boss, he is focusing so hard on sending what he thinks he wants his boss to say and to do and to make happen for him, but it's all motivated from a place of anxiety, control, desperation, and maybe even resentment. The boss is going to pick up on all of those motivations and all of those things as well, especially if he's being bombarded with them as mental, spiritual, and psychic messages. And that can throw the boss's energy field out of whack. And not only can that create a situation where it makes for an uncomfortable professional relationship, but it may even steer the connection off the course that Joe wants. Joe could be turning that on himself, or he may be alienating himself from his boss because his boss at that point doesn't want to be around Joe because it just feels like he's being bombarded and invaded and contaminated by all of those things. And it almost feels so forceful that it's coming in as an attack. And he might even feel shattered and a bit messed up every time he interacts with Joe. And that would be on Joe. Megan could be trying to move. And Megan wants to, move out of town, move out of state. But Megan has shared her intentions. She's put it out there for everybody, friends, family, all over the place. And there may be people that don't want her to go. They don't want her to fail, but they are sending her the energy of trying to find a way to, hold her where she is. Maybe they're well-intentioned. Oh, well, I want to send you something that, maybe let's get you a good relationship that'll keep you here. Let's get you a good this that'll keep you here. Let's get you a good that'll keep you here. That can still block and cross up the energies around Megan's core goal. And maybe it's good for Megan to go. Maybe it's healthy for Megan to go. But if Megan's feeling blocked up by the projections of other people, sometimes those pressures could come upon Megan in such a way where it feels almost like she can't take any effort towards going somewhere. It's almost like she's feeling all of these different people in the room kind of pressuring and dissuading her. Maybe Megan's mom doesn't want her to go, and Megan's mom has kind of pigeonholed Megan as a person in her head. So she's kind of scripting, like, no, this is who you are, this is how we converse, this is what you do. People who script and project routines like that really intensely and really insistently, or maybe with a lot of intention, onto people or onto even groups. You see this a lot in teams, you see this a lot in families and even clubs, can also create a containment field that can block up everyone there. Which is kind of funny because, a lot of that new age kind of world likes to talk about being in a wonderful container. It's like, I would never want to be put in a container because that's exactly what happens. It blocks you up. You can only abide the container at that point. But that is a way that a lot of people actually get hexed up and crossed up unintentionally, either by themselves or others, because everything I'm talking about, a person can also turn on themselves. Psychic vampirism. Energy vampirism occurs through links that get set up. And there's two kinds of vampirism that occur. There's accidental vampirism, and then there is intentional vampirism. The core function in that situation is one or more people have linked with one or more people, and they are now sharing energy on a constant basis, right? Through an energy cord, a psychic cord, or some kind of psychic link. And so whatever is happening to one will be shared with the other. Or one person will get so drained they have no energy to direct to send forth into their lives. And the other one, they're consuming and metabolizing the energy that they're acquiring. That can also cross up and create blocks and delays and derailments in a person's world. Sometimes those kinds of links happen accidentally, just comes from a lot of energy exchanges. The more energy we exchange with a person, the more that energy starts getting trained to flow back and forth a certain way, and it will create a link. It'll start as a trail, and then that trail will become more dense and then become a link, and then eventually evolve into a cord. Now, sometimes people do that on purpose. When people are sending each other energy and intensity like that on a routine basis, they're deliberately trying to create a link or a cord, especially one that is non-consensual. Then you have a situation where, somebody is trying to stay hooked, to stay attached, stay in control, to get energy, to extract what they want, whether it's energetic, spiritual, emotional, relational, psychic, from the object of their intensity or their insistence or their intention. But that can still, create the same problem. We should only be exchanging energy and putting energy out there when we want to, and that requires us being conscious enough and being in enough self-control to stop ourselves and to keep an eye on things. This is why it's important to also have a routine of good spiritual sanitation, right? Don't wait until the shit hits the fan to start cleansing and clearing your energy and cleansing and clearing your space. It's something that, if you're not careful, you might be kind of bringing too little to the table because you've waited so long. I cleanse and clear, I return to sender, I cut cords once, sometimes twice a week, just because I know that is exactly what is required. And sometimes I have to do it even more than that, but that's also because of the nature of my work. I'm a very spiritually active person. I'm doing readings all the time. And I'm also on social media, right? And that can also bring a lot of attention onto me. I've often, said, like, I wonder what would happen magically with me if I had a day or a week of full power without potentially, 10%, so roughly, 10,000 people regarding my followers, if you count Son of Selene and this, and Facebook and Instagram. 10% of my followers would probably be about 10, 11,000. And imagine 10 or 11,000 people might be overly intensely fixated on me. Imagine if I was not cleansing, clearing, and shielding out 10,000 wills. What would that mean for me? So you never know. Training under intense gravity, just like Goku, I guess. We'll see what happens. But you do need to be able to cleanse and clear. You do need to be able to maintain some spiritual sanitation, and that also includes cutting cords. That is a touchy topic, I think, for some people. Some people like to maintain psychic links. I think that for them, it's more of like an intimacy and an attachment issue and a closeness issue. I still don't. I wouldn't share my toothbrush with my boyfriend. You probably wouldn't share your toothbrush with your wife or your husband. It's just about sanitation. Only exchange what you want to exchange when you want to exchange it. But that is a way but those are all ways that people can mess each other up, even unintentionally. And when you are getting crossed up, that is where, again, things just don't seem to flow. You can't find the thing that you want to find. You maybe lose a sense of direction. You feel like you are being crowded and scrunched up, and almost like there are other wills in the room that are, kind of blocking you out. And sometimes, and most of the time, it is not something that is intentional. I'm not saying that there aren't real curses, hexes, and psychic attacks out there. Of course there are, and there are plenty of intentional ones. I literally just put up a video on how to cast a hex. But in this situation, we're talking about accidental and incidental ones. And yes, it's possible. For those of you who are, feeling like maybe this is something that applies to you, this channel does have a host of different videos on cleansing and clearing and, different ways to break hexes, curses, cross conditions, return to sender, and cut cords. So you might want to go do some exploring. One of the things I would recommend as far as maybe, building a routine for yourself would be not just relying on, say, sage or a bit of incense. I think that it's good to bring some variety into your cleansing and clearing habits. I tend to try and do 3 things when I'm cleansing and clearing myself and my space every week. Sometimes I'll do 5, but 3, tends to be enough most of the time. And it can be a game changer in the way you're going about your business. Number 1, I'm always taking spiritual baths, or if you can't do a spiritual bath, you don't have a tub, a spiritual shower. Get yourself some kind of lemon soap. Preferably, of course, natural lemon, whether it's a body wash or a bar soap. Lemon is great for cutting cords and cutting psychic links and attachments. Even better if there is some kind of mix of, say, like eucalyptus or mint or lavender in that soap, right? Something to cleanse and also wash you up good. Of course, yes, cleansing your home with sage or with cedar is fine. If you cannot use smoke or heavily scented cleansing materials like smoke, because maybe there's a circumstance with your health, or I had a friend the other day, who was asking, what can they use as an alternative? One of their children is neurodivergent and just can't do, excesses of smoke. Then I would say sound is also great, singing bowls, bells, things like that. Anything that you want to bring in to kind of push or shatter the denser, heavier energy and then clean out your place is fine. Of course, salt. You could sprinkle coarse sea salt throughout the carpets of your home, and after a couple of hours vacuum it up and then throw that away. Or you could, if you wanted to use salt water instead, mix salt water in a glass of water, charge it up, command that it cleanse and purify everything that water touches, and go and asperge your house with that. Mix your methods up, but make sure that you're staying clear and clean. Because that is going to help you help to not only prevent buildup of influences that could accidentally or incidentally hex or curse you, but also, keep you protected and your energy fields and your space resilient, so it can handle the occasional wave of negativity or occasional wave of problematic spiritual influences without completely collapsing. You've got to make sure that you've got a good spiritual sanitation routine on hand. But yes, accidental and incidental hexes and curses do happen. So that is what I've got for you all today. And I intended for this to be a short video, but again, sometimes intention isn't everything, and we ended up going a bit farther. But I hope you did find this helpful. And if you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And of course, if you ever have any questions or any suggestions for videos you would like to see me talk about, if I do know something about it, I'll make a video about it. But I'm not just gonna go be one of those social media types and just be like, well, I Googled this and I got some chat GPT intel on this, so now I'm gonna talk about it and rip it all off. I won't do that. But if it is something I have something to say about and I do know about from my own studies and my own work, absolutely, I will talk about it. And we'll come back soon here with a discussion on how to know if you might be under some kind of cross condition, hex, or curse very soon. Y'all take care, and I'll see you again later.